referring to the Parliamentary Village in Mpumalanga, where the cost we started out believing had ballooned from 300 million to 550 million, but we understand it is now, in fact, if it's 550 million and plus another 130 million, it's actually 680 million that we are now talking about, as per the information there from DA leader Jane Sithole. We are now joined by Mr. Dave Awogu, who's Chief Director, Building Infrastructure and Maintenance at the Mpumalanga Department of Works, Roads and Transport. Thanks so much for your time and welcome to Updated Noon.
Hi, good afternoon, Sakina. Good afternoon to the listeners.
Mr. Awogu, as we heard from Ms. Sithole, can you please explain to us exactly why the construction cost of this particular project, this parliamentary village, has escalated while there is not a single unit to be occupied by any parliamentarian?
Thanks, Sakina. I think I listened to Honorable Sithole's explanation. I just need to correct some facts there, then we can go further to answer the question. The scope of the project includes the construction of 16 houses for the MPLs, 12 houses for the MECs, 1 house for the Speaker of the Legislature, 1 house for the Premier, 1 State House, and in addition to those properties, the project also includes the construction of common recreational facilities for the members there, office facilities for the police and public works staff. It also includes security and related buildings. It also includes security perimeter fencing and patrol roads, and we're talking about a 50-hectare land. The cost includes the roads, internal roads. There was no bulk services in terms of bringing water, electricity, sewer connection to the site from the municipal point. So not all of this money goes into the construction of the houses. And the houses we are talking about here, we're talking about 31 houses. So if you allow me, I just want to give you a breakdown of what the initial cost was and why it has changed to the current cost that we are talking about.
Sure, but can I please just ask you, because there seems to be a terrible bit of feedback on the line, so I'm not sure what's actually causing that, but maybe we can just call you back very quickly, Mr. Awogu. So please just drop that line. We'll try and get back to Mr. Dave Awogu, who is the Chief Director, Building Infrastructure and Maintenance at the Mpumalanga Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport, because we want to understand exactly what is going on here and why this cost has escalated to the point where it is already at 680 million and not a single unit built yet, still on phase 1 and 2. And this is where we are at, trying to get an explanation and an understanding from the Chief Director about why the costs have ballooned to where they are. And also a few other questions, as I asked Ms. Sithole as well, about the land that was acquired and what went on with that particular deal, because initially the land was said to have been donated, and subsequently there was some disagreement between the members of the trust, as we understand, and the land was then sold to the government of Mpumalanga at the cost of 130 million, is what we understand. So we're just trying to piece it all together, and the Chief Director is joining us now just to give us that explanation. Mr. Awogu, thanks so much. Mr. Awogu, please, you were still explaining to us exactly how the costs actually escalated.
Okay. I don't know if you got the scope in terms of what the scope of the project was. Then if we are done with the scope, we are also, okay, I want to talk to the scope, the difference in the cost. The original cost of the project, Sakina, was approximately, it was 394 million when it was initiated, 394 million. And why the project changed in terms of the cost? When the project was being constructed, first of all, they did not take into consideration, in short, what was taken out of the project was a comprehensive stormwater management system, which, because the site is highly slopey, and that was not part of the project's initial scope, which was later included because of the terrain after the serious flood that they had. And that cost on its own, in terms of the stormwater management system, that is one of the costs why it increased. Secondly, there was an additional house, 3 additional houses, because initially this project was not supposed to accommodate members of the legislature or MPLs who stay within Bombela municipality. But subsequently, it was changed to say they need to accommodate all MPLs and all MECs in this parliamentary village, and 3 additional houses were then included in this project. Then subsequently, the additional houses included some fencing around the place, installation of integrated security system, as well as the land which was acquired. And the land was acquired for 30 million, as against the 130 million which has been indicated earlier on. And lastly, the 30 million is part of the current project cost, and the revised project cost of the project is 574 million. So there was an additional 180 million to this project, Sakina.
And looking at that, you're already overrunning. So let's just understand the land first and foremost that this village is being constructed on. What happened with the land? We understand it was donated and later it was not donated. So what exactly happened there?
Okay, basically the land was initially donated to the province by the Matsafeni Trust to construct the parliamentary village. However, I just want to explain, certain processes are allowed to run concurrently. This particular land, when we took the plans to the municipality for processing, the Matsafeni Trust, in addition to the donation letter, also signed, give the consent for the land to be processed and the application document, the planning application documents to be approved by the municipality. It was on that basis that the construction of the project and other aspects of the project ran concurrently with the execution of the project and the approval of the plan. While the land transfer, because the land transfer process is a lengthy process, so the team took the decision to run the transfer of the land with the plan approval, as well as to commence with the design and construction of the initial part of the project. But subsequently, as the project went on, the Matsafeni Trust reneged in their decision to proceed with the donation. And subsequently, they decided to change their mind and said no, they no longer want to donate. They are withdrawing the donation. We had every opportunity to go to court. But when we look at the cost of going to court and the period that it would take for the legal process to be finalized, when we did the cost-benefit analysis, we realized that it will eventually cost us over 110 million to pursue a legal process and rectify the structures that would happen if we go to court.
Okay.
When we had negotiation, it was eventually agreed for 30 million.
So let's take a few steps back, Mr. Awogu. You said that you received a donation letter from the trust. Correct?
Yeah, a deed of donation, yeah.
So when you went to submit the plans for building, in terms of the land and ownership of the land, what documents did you submit?
Okay. First of all, we submitted the deed of donation. Secondly, the consent form from the Matsafeni Trust for the department to proceed with the construction of the parliamentary village. And thirdly, in the application form with the local municipality, it was also signed by the Matsafeni Trust, giving the municipality authority to proceed with the processing of the planning application document.
So why did you then ultimately end up paying the Matsafeni Trust if all the documentation was in order?
Okay, while like I indicated earlier on, there are certain processes which we are running concurrently. It's the transfer of the land from the Matsafeni Trust to the department, which was a lengthy process. Hence, the team decided to allow the processes to run concurrently. The Matsafeni Trust, like I indicated.
So did you get permission? Yeah? Did you get a waiver for that to do that? Because
yes,
it is
yes.
So who gave you that permission? Who gave the waiver for you to do that?
No, it was on the basis of the documentation which were submitted to the municipality that the documentation were processed by the municipality, which is allowed during our town planning process. It's allowed that you get the consent letter from the owner of the land in whose name the property is registered, and secondly, you also get the forms which is being completed by the owner was completed by the Matsafeni Trust.
So this is where I get confused, Mr. Awogu. If you have all of those documents, how then does the Matsafeni Trust come back and demand payment for the land if in fact they had donated it, if in fact you had all the relevant documentation to prove such so that you could actually commence building on that land? How do they come back and demand money for it?
Okay, first of all, the way they came back and resolved to do this project was to renege on their donation was that They invaded the site with arms, with knob carries and so on, and chased the contractor out of sight. They even placed their own security there. We engaged in discussion with the Masafeni Trust with all the documentation, and they indicated they were not proceeding with that. Second, also,
but you could take them to court. Why didn't you take them to court? Because you had all the documents proving that the land was donated. So the land legally did not belong to the trust anymore. It belongs to the government, because as per your explanation, you had all the necessary documents.
Yes, we do, Sakina. Look, we checked, we discussed with our legal team. We had every opportunity to win the case. But if we take into consideration the period for which cases are resolved, legal matters like this, it takes over 12 to 16 months to resolve. Already take into consideration that will incur costs in terms of the contractors, appointed contractors standing time, which they charge on a daily basis for the plant which is on site. Secondly, if we look at the period that all the buildings that are standing, we will eventually come back and do some what we call refurbishment of those buildings. When we did our cost-benefit analysis, we have a winnable case, but we end up spending over 110 million on the legal processes and refurbishment of the building. Then when we engaged the Masafeni Trust, and eventually the department settled with them for 30 million. When you look at the cost-benefit analysis, and you also take into consideration the project will only complete after the legal process. So when we look at that, we went for the other option of paying them the 30 million.
So,
however, our team, we are also looking at our team now that we have resolved the matter.
Before you get there,
yeah,
who did you negotiate with at the Masafeni Trust? Or let me ask, who at the Masafeni Trust donated the land?
Masafeni Trust is a registered entity, and they have representatives. They have trustees of the Masafeni Trust. So
hence, I'm asking who.
What?
Who exactly was involved in that donation?
No, okay, I don't have the deed of title, but they were duly represented by the trustees of the Masafeni Trust.
So who came to invade the land?
The Masafeni Trust, right? Which they believe they indicated were representing the community. They sent their team, a representative from the community, to invade the land and chase out the contractors that were constructing the structures. Hence, it became chaotic, and the contractors could no longer proceed with the construction of the project because
but Mr. Awogu
took over the site.
But Mr. Awogu, those members of the community who are represented by and on the Masafeni Trust, were they not aware of the fact that the land was being donated to the government?
Sakina, I think those would be some internal issues between Masafeni Trust. But our understanding was that they were aware, and they looked. They know that this land was donated to government. But personally, I think when we looked at it, I think people were trying to take advantage of the situation, and that's why they invaded and decided and indicated, since the process of transferring the land to the department was not finalized. And I think that was the window of opportunity that they utilized. But currently, we are looking at our legal processes to see what is the process, what is the possibility of approaching the court in terms of this now that the land has been transferred to the provincial government.
We can go on that particular trajectory for a long time, but let's change course for a bit. The contractor. Who's the contractor or contractors who are currently on site, busy with this particular phase 1 and 2?
Okay, this project, because of the nature of the project, it was broken into 5 different phases. The phase 1 of the project deals with the construction of perimeter fencing, and it was initially awarded to SA Fence and Gate. But because of the constant community invasion of the site, asking or making unnecessary demands, the SA Fencing had to sign a session contract with White Hazy Building Construction, which are the contractors for the second phase.
My apologies, the name of the company? What's the name of the company?
White Hazy Building Construction. White Hazy.
White Heavy.
Yeah.
White Heavy Building Construction.
Hazy, white, as in H-A-Z-Y, White Hazy Building Construction.
Okay, all right.
They are the contractors for phase 2, which included the construction of internal work, infrastructure, and earthworks. Phase 3 of the project is which includes the construction of the buildings, the actual residential buildings, and all the other ancillary buildings as well, was awarded to Clear Choice Builders. Mm-hmm. Phase 4 of the project, which is the construction of external work infrastructure, was awarded to Prodepix Unkolele Project JV.
while the installation of integrated security system was awarded to Vesuberki Management Services. So there are currently 4 different contractors on site in this project.
All right. And with regard to that, one of the issues that I'm sure you heard Ms. Sithole raise was this question of allowing, government to spend money. Contractors come in, they don't deliver, and yet they would have been paid. Is any of the contractors currently on site guilty of that?
No, currently, Sakina, we have our books open, which can be interrogated at any time. For all the payments that have been made to the contractor, it's for work done on site. It's for work done on site. There's no contractor has been paid for no work done. And if you allow me, I want to indicate that it is not correct to say none of the structures of the 31 units have commenced. If you go to site, there are buildings. All the buildings, apart from 2 buildings, have not commenced, and a lot of them are sitting at various stages of roofing stages. So there are only 2 that are foundation stages. And those other buildings could not be completed because of the shortage of steel of roof sheeting, which is a general thing across the country. Because of these steel roof sheeting are imported. So because of COVID, it became impossible check around the construction industry in the country. There is a shortage of roof sheeting in the country. So that is also what is affecting the completion of those units at the stage.
So with regard to, let's take Clear Choice Builders. They were also involved in the Mkondo boarding school construction. Correct me if I'm wrong. They were also involved in the Mametlake Hospital and Bethel Hospitals. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Awogu. And what I need to know from you is whether there were any issues with the construction of, let's take those 3 that I've mentioned to you.
Okay. With regards to those projects, Sakina, currently the projects which they are involved in, they don't have any issues. The only issue I'll take Mkondo Boarding School was the issue of allocation of budget. So I think that's our own internal process in terms of budgeting on the project.
Explain that to us. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Okay, the budget allocation for the construction of Mkondo Boarding School in this current financial, which commenced in April. The budget allocation from provincial treasury was not indicated here, was not given to the department, because the department was given the mandate, was being given the budget to implement the project in the previous financial year. So in this regard, we've written to the provincial treasury asking for the remaining budget, which is required for the completion of the project. And I would like to indicate that the money that have been requested from provincial treasury is part of the original budget that was approved for the construction of Mkondo Boarding School.
What was the initial cost of that project?
Which one?
The Mkondo boarding school, the one we're talking about now.
Okay, I can just if you give me a moment, that I can get for you. Because I didn't get that documentation, but I can get that.
No, don't worry. What we'll do, Mr. Awogu, is I would love for you to actually send me some of the relevant documents, to that, and also to this particular parliamentary village, because we would just like to go over it and assist in our investigation as well as the story that we are doing, just to see what exactly happened, because I'm curious to understand the costs and the cost overruns in these projects and why this is happening. But as it stands right now, what is the completion date, the expected completion date for the parliamentary village now?
Okay, Sakina, I would like to indicate that with regard to, because they're all in different phases, in terms of the phase of the project, in phase 1, currently we have completed phase 1. We are only doing what we call snagging, in terms of what, just the snagging aspect of it, maybe fixing of minor work, but in terms of completion, it's been completed, which is the perimeter fencing work. In terms of the phase 2 of the project, which is installation of the bulk services, we are planning to complete that by the end of July, the bulk services. Phase 3, in terms of the construction of the building, our contractual completion date is sitting at October 2022, which is 2021 currently. However, I would like to indicate that our completion of that for that particular date depends on the stoppage of disruption of work from the community. Like as we speak, Sakina, as we speak currently, The community have invaded the site again last week Friday. So currently we are negotiating with them. So between last week Friday and now, there's no work being done because the community have invaded the site. They're asking for monies that are not due to them.
There's something very wrong there, Mr. Awogu. There's something very wrong with that scenario that you are sketching. So it even begs the question about this trust and who the people are who got involved with the government, the Mpumalanga government in the first place. Because I think we need to do a little more digging on that particular score, because people just can't come and invade and demand money at will. Because that points to you having been derelict in your duty as the government before you spent 680 million on a project which is now at a standstill from time to time because the community is demanding monies and all sorts of things. You didn't do your job.
No, Sakina, I think I would disagree with that. First of all, let me correct you on something. The original, like I said, the budget, including the land, is 574 million. Secondly, in project, I think in Mpumalanga is not just a peculiar case. Across the country, you'll be aware that there are projects that are being invaded by thugs. They come with guns and all sorts of weapons, right? Take over the site and ask for money. We go into negotiation to explain that they are not due to this amount that they're asking for and engage with them. So such invasion of the by the communities.
No, but to be fair, where invasions happen elsewhere and what's happening here are not necessarily the same, because this was land that was supposedly donated. So when you paid, how much did you say you paid the trust? 30 million?
It was 30 million, yeah.
So where did the money go? If the members of the trust were then paid what is due to them, why are they invading the land?
Okay, no, you see, that question now, Sakina, I think it needs to be taken up with the trust. Because for us, we had due documentation to indicate that the trust, the members of the board of directors that were representing the trust, went into negotiation with the provincial government. And it was based on that it was agreed that because of the excessive cost that we incur if we go through the lengthy process, hence the settlement of 30 million was paid to the trust directly. And I think in terms of the issue they're having, I think it's all in internal trust issues within this community trust. That's where they're having that issue, and hence this invasion that we're talking about.
Which is why I say you didn't do your job. You should have dotted your I's and crossed your T's as the government, and this would not have happened. And which is the same thing that I said to Ms. Sithole. There are basic principles that need to be adhered to, that people actually have to jump through these hoops in trying to just build a home for yourself on a stand here on a corner in Johannesburg. And we know how difficult it is. So what more? When government says we have a piece of land that was donated, surely you should be vigilant and make sure, especially coming from a trust that holds people's interest, you should have made sure that everything was in order.
No, Sakina, I think to some extent, I think we will consent to some of those issues which you've raised. But however, is it the invasion of the community of site? There are several projects across the country that didn't have anything to do with donations. And
so we don't want to talk about them, because I'm sure those communities have their reasons. We're talking about your particular project, and the reason we know is that the community members here are saying that you shouldn't be building on that land, and therefore they are demanding money from you because they believe that something untoward has happened here. So also, if this land now has been bought by the government, why are you not able to secure it? Why can't you bring in security police forces to secure the land? Because it belongs to the government.
Okay, as you speak, Sakina, first of all, contractually, when the site is handed over to contractors, the security provided on that site is responsibility of the contractors. However,
so why are your contractors not making sure that the land is secure, that the site is secure?
Yeah, however, in this case, we have advised the contractor we're going to open police cases and get a court order which will restrain these members of the community from further invading the site. And I also like to indicate that the invasion of the site, because we've had this several times, is not just related to the land donation. We have areas where the local subcontractors come and make unnecessary demands in the rates that they need to be paid. They charge monies that are far higher than for which the contractors are appointed for. So these are some of the challenges that lead to invasions, which we, through our social facilitators, we engage them, we engage the community to indicate that these monies, they are not entitled to it. And we, on several occasions, we manage to resolve these issues and we get the project going. But unfortunately, in this continuous disruption, which happens every 4 to 6 months, affects the progress on site of the project. Sakina?
And unfortunately, Mr. Awogu, as we're running out of time, I understand the concern that you express for members of the community. I understand the concern you express for the contractors who now will have to pay more for security. I understand the concern that you express for the trust and having to do right by them, worried about escalating legal costs. But what you're not worried about is the cost to the taxpayer in this country.
Sakina, I think our books, like I indicated, are open for interrogation for every cent that you've paid. Currently, Sakina, like you said, the revised project cost is 574 million.
But you're going to send me the documents because it's different according to the DA. So, Sakina, Sakina @safm.co.za. Please send those to me.
At SAFM, yeah?
S for sugar, AKIN for Nelly, at safm.co.za. And then what we'll do, I'm going to call, we're going to look for the trust. We are going to find all the various players so that we can understand and get some answers and some accountability on behalf of the government for the people of South Africa, because we cannot forever and a day watch these costs escalate with nothing to show.
I agree with you, Sakina. Like I said, our books are open for interrogation.
I'm waiting. So I will await those documents, please, Mr. Awogu, and I thank you so much for your time. Dave Awogu, Chief Director, Building Infrastructure and Maintenance at the Mpumalanga Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport. And, we thought we'd do a quick two-take on this story, but it seems there's quite a bit more going on here than even we initially thought, which is why I said during the interview, we need to go and do a little more digging of our own, just in terms of what is going on, who are the protagonists in this regard, because there are some things that just don't gel here. But that's where we're going to have to leave it for today.